So hello, everybody. I am thrilled to welcome you all to this special Women in Tech panel as part of the IEEE Cloud Summit and in celebration of Women's History Month. Just a little shout out to IEEE Cloud Summit. It's an event that happens in June of 2025. If you haven't already, we'll put the link in the chat, and please pre-register on LinkedIn. It doesn't matter if you can go or not, just pre-register because we'll probably have a whole bunch of stuff virtually available for everybody, things to learn from, and both from the technical side as well as industry and career growth. So I know that you are all tuning in. I see them, all the people joining right now, probably between classes, and hopefully you have a coffee in hand. But thank you for showing up. I have a couple of things I want to say. First, your presence matters, and thank you. Thank you for showing up. This is really, really important to me as a host for this afternoon. A little bit about me. I'm co-chair of IEEE Cloud Summit. Bing Wei is our other co-chair, and we have industry chairs here, Pragya and Mark Canner. And we all work with a team of volunteers to bring all this to you. So thank you very much for participating, and thank you to everybody who is a volunteer. I am also the owner of Links IQ, a technology business consultancy, and I have made a career in corporate health and insurtech, and now I'm in this new part of my journey. So, but it's not about me. We've brought together an incredible set of panelists today, and it seems participants as well who have their own unique paths. And I want to make sure that we all have the opportunity to share our experiences. Okay, first thing, quick notes before we dive in. Casual but tight. So I want to hear from everybody, but the kind of forum is that the panelists will introduce themselves, then we'll jump right into discussion. If we can all put ourselves on mute, and if we can all put video, if you're video appropriate, if you want. And then if you're in the audience, not speaking as part of the panelists, and something hits you, please drop a line in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll call out on, we'll call your name to add your thoughts. Let's see. We want to keep it interactive, and but really the idea about today and the focus for today is for the next wave, our future technologists. And so they are the students, the early career women and men, and emerging leaders trying to find their place in tech. So let's do what we can to give them our experience and some advice. So, well, let's get started. Why don't we have the panelists introduce themselves, and we'll start with Pragya.
Oh, thank you. I thought we would go alphabetical, but I'm happy to go first. Hi, everyone. It is such a privilege to be here this afternoon. My name is Pragya. I've also been a prior speaker at the IEEE conference, and this year have the privilege of being an industry chair as well. I work at AWS, Amazon Web Services. I've been at Amazon 5.5 years in different roles, in technical roles from solution architecture to now customer solutions. I work with enterprise customers, and my larger team work with enterprise customers to guide them on cloud transformation, modernization, and now AI, ML, and generative AI. But really excited to be here and have this conversation. Alka, how about I pass it over to you?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be here to talk with all of you. Again, my name is Elka, and I've been in the health insurance industry for about 20 years. I actually started on the business side of the house and quickly shifted over to technology. So over the last 15 so years, I've held a lot of different technology roles, whereas currently I'm the technology officer of a particular organization. So really kind of made that shift and increased my knowledge and value in that direction. Today, I focus on interoperability. I focus on trying to make getting value out of data and on emerging technologies.
Lisa?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Dunn. Although I do not work in technology, I've worked for global organizations such as Siemens Healthineers, as well as Harman International. So I have been around the technology space in many different areas and excited to bring my passion for human resources and people development. I do focus primarily in ensuring that not only do leaders, but their teams are set up for success. They have the right skills, the right capabilities in order to meet organizational goals. I started my career as a career counselor in universities, so I definitely relate to anyone who might be thinking about what is next steps. So I'm happy to be here in front of all of the students and grad students that we have here, as well as other interested learners. Currently, I'm exploring my own consulting business, a little bit of a switch, bringing in technology, but the human side of AI. So this is where my passion is currently, and happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
Thanks. And Dawn?
Hello, I'm Dawn Christie. I'm thrilled to be joining you from Chicago. I'm an AI and cybersecurity advisor, former attorney, and author. I'm actively involved in the women in AI community, and I'm an advocate for women in tech, cybersecurity, and AI. I train teams on risk awareness and solutions. I have 25 years in global emerging risk management and 12 years in cybersecurity and cyber insurance. The last 2 years, I have focused on the intersection of AI and cyber risks, which has been really a diversion and also a transformation and very, very interesting. I founded the Cyber Dawn during the pandemic when I was in South Florida to train organizations on cyber risk prevention. I also, during the pandemic, wrote my book, 33 Ways Not to Screw Up Cybersecurity, which is basically a guide on how to understand human error as the basis of a lot of cyber attacks. I have my JD from DePaul Law, and I have my BA in political science from UIC here in Chicago. And I am honored to be involved in a couple of things. One is I'm a member of the Harvard Business Review Advisory Council. I've received my Book Fest Book Award. And the other one I wanted to point out is a fantastic magazine. She is AI Magazine. I'm a brand ambassador. And it's really focused on women in AI with stellar articles and stunning artwork. So have a look at that. My moonshot goal is to help as many businesses as possible to adapt AI responsibly.
Thank you. Actually, Dawn, you should have been here last week because we presented, Stella did a stellar job at presenting on cybersecurity. So we'll have to
talk later.
We'll have to make sure to put the connection together.
Okay.
Actually, that makes me think about it. We also have a lineup for the next 2 weeks. We have Fariba, who comes from international and healthcare at Aetna and CVS. And then also after that, we have Steve McDonald and Praga. Well, we'll be sending out information about it. I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit or.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll send a link so everybody can read the details, but an exciting session. Steve McDonald is the director of solution architecture at AWS, and his team also brings in early career talent into AWS tech roles. So we'll have an exciting conversation. He's also a big ally for diversity and inclusion, and really drives the mission that it is good for business. And so we'll get to hear from him April 4th, Friday as well.
Awesome. Well, why don't we just get into it and start with questions to the panelists on why they decided to join, and maybe at this forum, and maybe tying that to a personal example of where you realized where you realized that there was a disparity in some technology organizations and functions.
Who'd like to start? Anybody? Lisa, Alka?
I can go. Oh, I'm sorry. Everyone's eager. Whoever you call on us, whoever you want.
Okay. Usually I have a mic and that I'd be able to pass it to someone. So how about Alka, since you unmuted first?
Sure. So, yes, I mean, this is really important. And when I think that in women in IT, we've talked about it for years and years. And I think one of the questions we talked about is just kind of what's been going on in the last 20 years. And I think there's an awareness of the problem, but I don't think we have a strong enough effort in place that's going to change it. And in my career, as I look around in, you said a personal example, I remember looking across the IT organization and thinking, all of the SVPs and VPs are all men. Why is that? They're talented, smart women who seem to just get overlooked for whatever reason. They've got overlooked for that VP promotion, et cetera. And so it really was disheartening to me, sort of being younger in my career and just seeing that I'm not seeing someone like me up there, and how am I going to get up there? And how do you advocate for yourself? And, so I just feel like I want to be here today because I just think in the future, I want it to be better. I definitely want there not to be such a gap in pay, such a gap in promotions. And I just think that we all have to band together and make this a focus area. I think you get busy in your professional and personal careers, and we don't focus on trying to help the next generation below us. And so this is really important. I think we all have to focus on it. We all have to be part of the solution and part of the change. Just being aware of the problem is not enough.
Thanks. Dawn?
Well said. For me, it goes back to an earlier age, and I just always go back to how much I love science and math, particularly science, and was discouraged to pursue it and ended up going to law school ultimately. And I think about young girls who are, not encouraged to pursue STEM studies and STEM careers. That's one issue. So we have to go back in time and generate the interest younger, and then guide them along the way. The other is that women in tech have made progress, but there are these systemic challenges, which was pointed out. And, it's not just an HR bias issue. This impacts cyber, AI, and business risk. And with, DEI now deprioritized, companies need to start focusing on other things like which we'll talk about today: returnships, pay audits, skills-based hiring. But I think one other factor that's important is, and this happened a lot during and after the pandemic, a lot of women reach a certain level and then they decide to leave the industry or leave that company, which is a setback. And often those are based on lack of peer support, lack of peers, lack of recognition, and they end up leaving sometimes just that company and even the industry. So they'll get so far and then there's a back step, and that's really unfortunate.
Lisa?
Sure. From my lens, I would say from leading many leadership development programs, both from the front line all the way up to the VPs or executive VPs, it was one of my things that I wanted to do for women. I saw that there was inequality in the representation of women in development programs. And a lot of times what happens in corporations, they elect their favorites to join these top talent programs. And a lot of time women are dismissed from it. And you could see it from the numbers, especially from looking at it from different divisions or the roles, especially supporting STEM. So one of the things that I tried to do was create development equity, which means I removed the nomination-based leadership programs and ensured that I at least had 30% representation from women. And this is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. And it's also valuable to the women who participate in these programs because then they have visibility for promotional opportunities. They get that visibility in front of the C-suite, which helps them to progress. So that is my passion for why I am here today.
Thanks. Pragya?
Oh, I many examples, and a lot of it has been said, so I won't repeat that. But I think that I went to engineering school, and I noticed I studied electrical engineering, bachelor's and master's, and you could kind of see just the difference in numbers. And I think I noticed it first then, but then it continued to compound as you get into the workplace. And I started my career in network design and spent time in shield rooms testing devices. And yeah, I used to be the only one. And I think as I grew, kind of took on leadership roles, etc., you kind of continue to see that, are you the only one? Are you the first one, etc.? So I truly have a passion. I also have a 6-year-old daughter now. And so it's just compounded my kind of drive to be front and center, talking about these things and open doors wherever I can. I'm a big advocate for intentional mentorship, intentional networking. I always encourage if you want to find me on LinkedIn, connect with me. I'm happy to review resumes, whatever it is, if I know you. So it's just passing it forward, I think, is important. Because a lot of the way I have kind of progressed is someone has opened that door for me or has been an ally. So through this forum today, not only I'm lucky to kind of meet these other professional leaders on the panel, but also just continue to open doors for others ahead.
Great, thanks. And I'd say that, what my hope is, and coming into this, is that I'm a little bit older. And so I was hoping that the atmosphere and the landscape was a little bit different in my time when I was younger and a budding technologist in health tech. But the more I talk to different people, who, like the students that are a part of this conversation today and others, the more I see that the numbers are still low and they're still having trouble getting guidance and to the opportunities that are around. And it's women, it's diversity overall, right? It's just, it's not, I feel as though there's an opportunity for us to provide some guidance around what worked and what didn't work, and how to navigate in different environments in tech, both corporate, startup, and everything in between. And so that's why I was looking forward so much to this discussion. Panelists, if anybody or any of the participants, if anybody wants to contribute, this is open forum. So please raise your hand and I will add you to the conversation. And so please, Belinda, perfect. Wonderful.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My name is Belinda Jones. I'm a user experience designer. And the one thing that at least I recall is whenever we think of tech, we think of tech roles or a background in engineering or computer science. But then there's also that aspect of art. So growing up, I always loved to create artwork, majored in art and design. And then this whole world of user experience opened up, and just being in that time and place to improve digital services, being able to help local residents be able to jump into any of their local sites and either apply for services. So that has really drawn me, and I think we can all agree technology is constantly changing. So just being able to keep abreast.
That's a really good point. I think I see one other hand. Rosemary, maybe some insight into why you feel that there was a disparity or in tech.
Well, first of all, my camera is not working, so I'm not sure why it's not working. But I am an executive coach and an organization design specialist. And the research shows that women are very relational. I mean, this is Deborah Tannen's research from, I want to say, the 1990s. And I think the way the technology field has emerged or evolved is really that it has many, many masculine attributes. And so why women, so women who have stepped into technology roles, whether it be AI or, engineering types of roles, many of those women have what I would call masculine tendencies because they have grown up in an all-male institution. And so the dilemma really becomes how do you feel about becoming more, allowing more of your female attributes to show, and yet show your competency at the same time. And I think that is the horns of the dilemma for women and why it has not shown up. And I think many of the men don't understand that relational compatibility that is so important to women. And so men are always jockeying for, I'm using my hands, but nobody can see me. Men are always jockeying for the one-upsmanship. And they understand that. And I would highly recommend that you read You Just Don't Understand, Deborah Tannen's original work. She wrote the book. I think it's in the 1990s. And I believe that is so important to answering this question. And I know a lot of, there are many cultures that really want, they're immigrant cultures to the United States, and they really want their children to go into science and technology because that's where those are where the jobs are. But many of those children, are lost because they have other desires. So I think we're at a very strange time in our society. But I do want to just highlight that horns of the dilemma between the relational aspect and the science, engineering, I think it's serious. It's a serious problem.
Thank you. What I understand you saying is that there's both it's a technology, there's HR and workforce, but there's also a social component of it in terms of how we all kind of relate to each other and interact. And so as part of like talking about then and now, maybe the panelists could talk a little bit more about the challenges that they see that have persist, especially in leadership. You probably have seen other things happen to your teams and in technology, and then what new obstacles are emerging. Feel free to, I can't see you, so feel free to just jump in.
I thought, this is Lisa, I thought the point was interesting because I was also reading about, well, what can women do in technology? And based off of the World Economic Forum's global parity report, that we're talking about the power of networking. And I know we can talk about, the value of coaching and having champions and allies. But what they were talking about as far as networking is men tend to be a little bit more aggressive in networking. They tend to have, and this is based off of LinkedIn, they tend to have more people in their network. However, it doesn't necessarily lead to quality people in network, where women are a little bit more protective might be the wrong word, but they're selective as to who they invite into their network. And therefore, from a career perspective, women can see benefits from their network because it's more solid relationship. So sharing a little bit about that based on the parities of men and women and how it could be to our advantage as well for creating networks.
Thanks.
Could I piggyback onto that?
Mhm.
Because since we're quoting sort of reports here, there was a McKinsey report that I read, which I could send to people later. I don't have it to put into the chat, but it was interesting in looking at one of our questions about the economic impact in women's leadership and this sort of risk versus rewards bias. And it said that women are promoted based on experience, men on potential. And that potential kind of ties in with the networking. And I remember being at a large company and all the women working hard in cubicles, heads down, doing a great job. And then you've got the water cooler scenario that we hear about, where a group of guys is talking and laughing and sharing stories. And that's sort of this idea of working hard experience. That's what we do, versus potential networking, mentor sponsorship. So there is even that divide in interacting, especially when we were in the office environment versus remote. And then this idea that, you know, the women grind it out with experience, but the guys are there with the gift of gab, perhaps being promoted based on potential, which is really an interesting dynamic, I think.
I want to jump in here too and kind of take it from a different angle. In my experiences too, you know, what the company values and kind of how the company structures some of these things in terms of promotions and whatnot, to me really has a big impact on things. I mean, you know, does the company believe in, you know, trying to hire a much more diverse workforce? Do they believe in, you know, trying to really provide these advocacy groups? So, you know, I just think that in order for women to be successful in technology and be able to get promoted, I think it really is about the company that they work for, and does the company support that mentality? I've seen a company where the CIO was a woman, and you saw that her next command, half of them, at least half or more, were women. Women tend to promote women. And you know, you could see much more of that. Whereas in another company, you know, the whole leadership force from the CEO and all the directs were all males. And then you can just see that, you know, there wasn't a lot of that opportunity. So I think you have to look at the company and say, what does the company value? What investments is the company making to get a diverse workforce, you know, to hire people for their experience, to hire people who, you know, who really deserve the job, as opposed to your buddy, as I think you were saying, Dawn. So I think it's important to look at the company, you know, that you're potentially working for, or maybe, you know, want to work for, and look at kind of what's important to them. You can quickly go on the website and say, you know, look at the CEO, look at their direct reports, look at, you know, maybe the layer down, and you can kind of get a sense of what's going on there, whether that's a company where you're going to have a lot of opportunity. And I think once you go to a company too, and you try and you see what's going on, and you want to move up, and instead of getting burnt out, as one of my peers just mentioned, you got to leave and go try somewhere else. Sometimes it's the company that just is not going to get you anywhere. You can have all the talent, the potential, the experience, even the advocacy and the support. But if the company doesn't support it, you're just not going to go anywhere. So I'm a huge proponent of looking at that company and what are, you know, what's going on there, to kind of identify whether that's going to be a place where you can really kind of develop yourself.
Yeah, I'll plus one to what you said, Alka. And these are things to look out for in an interview as well. When, you know, you are asked questions, you have an opportunity to ask questions as well. And you should use that opportunity if that's something that's important to you. So 100% agree. And it's also, when you're there, it's bringing talent in, but then also investing in the talent to grow. Because one of the easiest things you can do right now is bring the talent, you know, put the word out there, attract the diverse talent. How are you investing in them? How are you upskilling them? How are you creating that growth path for them? And how are you retaining them so that they become the flywheel that then attract more talent? So I think bringing them in and then creating that flywheel, also you want to see that investment from your employer to keep you there. I see some raised hands, Marinka. Do we want to look
Sure.
at the chat? Yeah. Tony and Annika, I see raised hands. Do you all have a question? Would you like to get off mute? Go ahead, Tony.
Hello, my name is Tony. I am a recent graduate from my computational data science undergrad. I worked for around 5-6 years leading Google research and also different startups. I currently founded and run a technology ecosystem in Philadelphia. I actually never worked in corporate. It's always just startups or just leading edge research. And one thing that I want to ask about is, at least I hold that same standard to myself, is I try to just build my own products and build my own projects and everything from scratch, and then just do it like solo, do everything myself. I do know some like girls from Taiwan who like published like 6 papers in undergrad and like near perfect GPAs, and like working in like different AI startups with cybersecurity. But like in America, I'm like, what's preventing just like being that solo crazy engineer, just build everything by yourself and just do everything by yourself?
There's nothing,
Uh,
there's nothing preventing that person from doing that.
because I mean that's essentially what I try to do, right? And what my peers try to do as well.
Yeah.
In my current meetup that I'm running right now, a lot of the people next to me are all solo founders and just building things from scratch and then trying to just hammer their heads at the walls until it lands and stick.
And yeah, and
Where
maybe
are they
that's
getting funding though?
yeah.
They just go out and find funding somehow. I don't know how.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem here for women.
Yep. I'd have to agree with you on that. Being on both sides of looking for funding and helping other people find funding, there seems to be a disparity in doing that. So, Tony, those are really great points. And
For example, right now, I am in a conference room where I'm subleasing a sublease from a sublease. And somehow that really lowers my cost for my meetup, but I still haven't found funding.
yeah. Well, good for you for being able to be thrifty and find creative ways of being able to support your dreams. And when we're talking about this, it's not just women. It's any personality and any person who may not fit the mold of corporate. To your point, Annika and Pragya, or who just may not be in the right place or the right fit for the role that they're playing. So Annika, did you have a question as well?
Yes, I just wanted to call out in the chat. This was a while ago. I believe Amy from the chat asked to get a link to the publication that I believe Dawn was talking about. Do you know how she can get access to that publication?
You mean the McKinsey report?
I maybe she can
It was the AI publication that you were talking about.
Oh, yes, she is AI Magazine. Yeah, I can, I can actually, I can put it in a DM, if you DM me on LinkedIn, or I can actually try to
Okay.
hook it into the chat here.
Yeah,
Sure.
everybody,
Okay.
please share your
Thank
information
you.
in
Yeah,
chat.
happy to share. Absolutely.
Yeah. Whoop. And then also in the Slack, we'll be following up with a lot of information and resources. So one thing that someone said was about sponsorship, and folks might want to check out Helen Tubb. She's in Brussels, and I had the opportunity of meeting her last year, and she has dedicated her PhD to really defining the difference between advocacy and support versus sponsorship, and bringing awareness to what sponsorship means, because she has found in her research that there is a difference of people being supportive, like leadership being supportive of a woman and being maybe an advocate versus sponsoring, and which in her mind is being there to support someone who when nobody else will, right? And that's really important. So does anybody have comments about that, or should we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I definitely have a comment on that one because I think it maybe sponsorship is parallel to championship, but a lot of times and you know better than I do, but you're sitting in a department where you're probably the single female in this department. And the more that you climb up the corporate ladder, it is still the same way. And you could be that single female in this environment. And unfortunately, the good old boys network doesn't always include the female leaders into the discussions or the happy hours or whatever it may be, and they need to find their voice. So I've always encouraged these leaders, whether they were in automotive or audio design or med tech, to really find a champion who could really support them and be the voice at the high level. pay attention to what promotions are available to them and be able to support them when they're having these discussions. So I'm fully behind you. I think championship is much better than just a mentor, and I think there's a lot of power to it.
One of the questions I thank you had also that I wanted to bring up, given that it's women in tech, is what do the panelists think about the uniqueness of tech and the tech industry compared to other industries, which you've just mentioned, in terms of leadership opportunities and a career progression for women?
I can chime in on that. So, a couple of things. I started out in law and insurance, and I came across an interesting situation where I mentor a lot of students, and one of these law students, it was so interesting because I said to her, in law school, I was involved in a Women in the Law Committee, and she said, well, why would you need that? And that's when the light bulb went off. And I said, well, the reason you don't need one is because we did that. So, this idea that, women in the law, we had to actually have a committee because of the lack of law students. I'm a little bit long in the tooth here. And so that's the thing. It's been in insurance, it's been in law, it's been in banking, it's been in tech. This isn't a unique scenario. This is women in work in general. And so this is why I have to give a little shout out to Women's History Month. There's so many great stories being written on LinkedIn and other social media, just because we have to have a month to stand out and say, yes, here's people that are deceased, people that are in our current time, but these are women making a difference. And it's all industries. It isn't just tech.
That's a great point. Thank you. Alka, and then after that, Belinda, you have your hand up. But I think Alka, you wanted to say something?
Sure. No, I'll just chime in again so I think that, when I think about my 20-year career and kind of what's changed, I really think, yeah, there's more people coming into technology, but I still don't feel like there's been a lot of progress in 20 years when I look at the promotional opportunities and I look at kind of the way that companies are handling things. So I don't think a lot has changed. I really don't. And maybe I'm working at all the wrong companies. But I also just wanted to comment on another piece of this is I think in general too, I think that a lot of women that I end up working with, and again, I've been in the corporate culture, women tend to have less confidence. And I think that really works against us. It just feels to me that I think we're talking about the water cooler and the good old boys network is I think for some reason men tend to have a lot more confidence. And, a lot of women I know, we have what they call the imposter syndrome, right? And we fight that no matter what stage of your career, we still fight that. And I think we have to work on ourselves and make sure we're reminding ourselves of the accomplishments that we've had, what what we've done in our career. And we have to constantly build ourselves up. I think there's just this tendency for us to think we're not good enough, we're not strong enough, we're not smart enough. And I feel like our male counterparts are maybe on the overconfident side that they don't even need the experience behind them to be able to propel themselves. Interested, Tony, in what you had to say around, why aren't other women, building things from scratch? Sometimes it's a confidence thing. Sometimes it's a credibility thing. And it is hard, but I just think that we have to work on ourselves as individuals and not let that imposter complex or fear or that person's better than I am. I think we have to really work on ourselves and believe in ourselves and push ourselves. And if we're not getting what we need at one place, go to another place. Don't stop fighting and don't leave the career altogether. You've got to, push forward and not give up. So I think that's something that I've learned in my career is just that, there's definitely a difference between males and females and how they interact. And there's definitely a lot more time that we as women, I believe, have to do to kind of remind ourselves that we are strong enough, good enough, smart enough, and keep investing in our confidence level.
Thanks. Belinda?
Yes, so I was just going to add to the importance of building allies. Because in my recent role at Capital One, I actually had an ally open the door for me. But then it was also, you come in and then you got to figure it out. You got to succeed. So it was trying to find out, okay, who can I network with within my immediate team, but then also beyond. And then building those allies that are not necessarily in design. They don't have to be in design or your industry. They could be in another department and can still be your. So, and then definitely, getting a coach. Like if you happen, and I'm sure you will, graduate and find these amazing organizations or roles. If they have the benefits of getting a coach as part of professional development, definitely use that to your advantage.
Yeah, I have seen coaches for different people, executives, as I have gone through my role in different organizations. And one of the things I wish that would happen more is having coaches as part of corporate or career progression programs, because I think the coach is really, really important to build the confidence to help you understand the dynamics in a situation and navigate the different personalities and in a positive way, instead of being either afraid or because there's a lot of things, there's a lot of power plays that exist in any workplace. So.
And if I can add to your point, since learning and development is obviously my passion and leadership development specifically, you mentioned a very key point, that the coaching piece is something to make is a benefit that really drills home what are the specific items that we need to work on. And I love when you were talking about, Alka, about, it's some of the emotional stuff. We sometimes get in our own way. Right. And some of it is part of our programming. And when I do personal branding for women, you can see a lot of these issues, these emotional issues that hinder us in some ways. So with the coaching and even women in leadership program that I offered, we didn't talk about the standard things. We talk about what is really holding us back. How do we get rid of the negative self-talk that we're not good enough, or so-and-so probably deserves to get it more than I do. So we're getting there, but it takes passionate people to understand and realize and continue to celebrate things such as Women's History Month. There are a lot of men and in leadership that think, why should we treat them any differently? Why do we give them a month? So we're still fighting an old thing, but anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
I would just say that we have a month because there are still inequities. As soon as we get rid of the inequities, we'll get rid of the month.
I think we need 12 months, but that's another story.
We can also engage men into the process. I mean, there are men that want to be champions, that want to. I think they just need a little nudge.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. You can look at the list and see how many men are there. So our champions just don't have to be the company or just don't have to be women. I think men are starting to see, and maybe they have daughters and like, I don't want my daughter to go through this. So I do think that engaging men and having them advocate and having them understand the issues and kind of pointing them to where, you can help by doing this. So I think we can engage men into it because I think they do see the disparity. They do see it, so that's another partner we can have in this fight.
Great point. So we're at about 15 minutes left. So I'm going to just start the last question around, if you had one piece of advice or one a nugget of value that you could give to those listening today, what would that be?
Well, I have to go with the AI platform because in the next 1, 3, 5 years, it's going to be amazing. And we're going to be shocked at how AI is just part of our lives. And so for me, bias in if I was talking to a company, bias in AI isn't just a social issue. It's a cybersecurity, ethics, and business risk. Companies that fail to fix biased data are exposing themselves to reputation damage, lawsuits, and security failures. That would be my message on AI and the future of work.
Anybody else have value points to and advice to give to the future women and technologists abroad?
I would say don't stop learning. Don't stop learning, especially in technology. Stay on your game. You know, I mean, you certainly have a network for lots of things, but make sure you have a network to talk about IT stuff, because I think, you know, you can certainly have IT solutions, but without the experience or the use cases, you don't have the value there. And I think for me, having a network of peers that are in IT, working in different venues or different organizations, having that collaboration and understanding what people do keeps me sharp. So I would just say keep learning, you know, focus on emerging technologies, take time for your personal development. You know, we work for a company, and certainly we're getting a paycheck, but part of our job is to invest in ourselves during that 8 hours. Don't forget that. So please don't forget to invest in yourself. It's part of your job.
Lisa?
Yeah, I totally agree with previous comments. I would say that this is a tough time for people who are graduating and looking for jobs. I can tell you from experience, being even at the senior level, trying to find work is challenging right now in this job market. But because of AI and other emerging technologies, you can create a career that may not even exist yet. So I would say don't think about career as a linear pathway, or even as you know, well, I have to look for a job in a corporation. You know, I value you, Tony, for thinking outside of the box and doing things on your own. You have the power, and nobody has all the answers. So create something that is meaningful to you to really excel, and perhaps you might find that startup organization or corporation that sees that value and wants to bring you in.
I have to agree. And Tony wrote a little message in the chat about tech being a profession of failure, and being okay with failing and trying and trying and trying again. And that's part of learning. So that goes to what Alka was saying. And then the bias piece is, so for a while there, when I was in my roles, I didn't know because nobody told me. Like, just because I was the only woman in the room, I was like, I was so focused on just getting the job done that I didn't pay attention. And I think that awareness is really important. And being aware of the biases will not only make you better at your job, especially in technology and statistics and data science and so forth, but also be aware of the you know, the situations that you're in and how to navigate them. There's a couple of other people here that I am sure have probably some lessons learned or some advice that they could give people. Not to put you on the spot, but I also wanted to say Amy Nefsker is actually going to take my place in moderating the panel on women in tech in person in June, I believe. And so do you have any advice or thoughts?
Yeah, I really like what everybody was saying about the career coach. I think that's extremely valuable. Finding the right coach is key, though. And there was a lot of talk about imposter syndrome. And I think while that's an issue for some women, I think if you've ever been burned in a situation, you know, where something didn't turn out quite right, there was an issue in a department and you got blamed for it, you know, scapegoating, you're less likely to move forward. So it's not so much that it's imposter syndrome, it's that you're reluctant to figure out, you know, where are my feet? And I think having a coach can help you work through either one of those two issues.
That's great. Any other participant or person in the audience on the call?
I can go if no one else. The other thing is also, so I know we talk a lot about hard skills, really getting to know your craft. But I think, especially now with the age of AI, soft skills are also, I think, those that are going to set us apart. So communication, organization, time management skills. So not forgetting to also invest in those as well.
That's great. I'm sure as we talk to each other and hear each other, there's probably some additional comments or some additional thoughts. Anybody from the panelists?
I will sort of, I guess we're near the close. So I think one of the things you just have to do is ask. There's so many statistics, and there's actually a famous Steve Jobs, like 1-minute video that shows up from time to time on LinkedIn. And he was talking about how 99% of the time, if you ask somebody for help, they will help you. But most people just never ask. And it just makes sense. Don't be hesitant to ask. The odds of somebody saying no are slim. And if they do, well, then you move on. But remember to ask on your journey. And that's with everything we've been talking about today.
And I think to support Dawn, I would like to add, I've heard horrendous stories from women who were mistreated or devalued in their departments or et cetera. Reach out to people, whether it's HR or maybe, a colleague that is a friend of yours. Speak about it, because holding it in and trying to figure it out doesn't help you at all. So there are support systems within the corporation and hopefully your family, et cetera, but you do not need to take any type of mistreatment just because you're a female.
So one of the things that I keep hoping, and I think we are making progress, right? These are all pieces of advice, and usually advice is tied to kind of trying to alleviate harm or barriers to career progression. And my son told me one day, he's like, Mom, I didn't grow up at the same time as you. Like, things are different now. Right. and I keep thinking about that. And I'm hoping that the next set of talks and even in June when we get together, that some of the students are able to share their experience, or some of the our youth and next generations that are in the tech space today can share their experience. And Tony, thank you so much for sharing yours, because I cannot believe that it's the same, and it will have new issues and new problems, but also new opportunities and new things that everybody here, the panelists, standing up for and for each other has made a mark. And so I'm trying to end it on a good note, because I think that there's a lot of good that has happened. Anybody else see the good as well?
Absolutely. I think there's, to Tony's point, if you're not inclined to get into the sort of corporate muddle that some of we've been talking about, you can start your own business. Of course, there's challenges with that, but right now, the need for innovation, and I'll just give one example, AI detectors. We need to be able to detect when AI is used. It's used for cybersecurity for good, but it's also used for cybercrime. And there's all these things like deep fakes. I won't go off on a tangent, but when I've talked to other groups, if you're innovative and you want to think about how am I going to make money between the next 1 and 5 years, if you're a woman and you're so inclined to become an entrepreneur, find that group of people that can help you to start a business rather than taking the corporate path. It's one of your options.
Lisa, Alka? Any positive or things that you have seen?
Sorry, positivity. Yeah, no, I definitely think, it was funny because before this call, I was like, I wonder how many women are CIOs. And I was actually surprised to find that I could find 25 on the internet, women, CIOs that are women, which was really, really promising. So we are getting there, and it's happening little bit by little bit. But I think we just need a stronger force. So I'm very positive, and I love my job. I love what I do. It's fascinating. I wouldn't have picked another path for myself. So it's a great space to be in. It's exciting times, especially with the AI technology and all the different emerging technologies that are happening. It's an exciting space. So I feel very positive about the future.
And I
Lisa?
also think, yeah, sure. And I also think that from my perspective, but from the DE&I leadership as well as from HR, there are corporations that are watching the numbers. There are corporations that are making sure that there is equity among women in technical spaces. So I think, Alko, you were sharing that, or someone was sharing that earlier, but I think, look at the board. That's always what I do when I look for a board, see who's in charge of what. Because I guarantee that there is somebody who's watching those numbers in order to bring those people in. And I like that, because if you don't track it, you can't change it. So I think it's, have hope that I do believe DE&I is not disappearing completely. There are corporations committed to parity.
Thank you. And I would just add that we should support each other, right? Just be there for each other and try to promote each other. And it's not just women, just overall humanity. Like if you see someone that has great skills and has a great temperament and character, then promote them and help them out. And that's what we're trying to do here at IEEE. So with that, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. It was a pleasure. It was everything I thought it was going to be. And appreciate everybody else who joined. And we're going to either see you in June or see you in the next webinar that we do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.